What's going on, everybody? This is Moose and Brian here from OccupyFantasy.com at Occupy Fantasy on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I am your host, Moose, at CFP_Moose on Twitter is where you can find me. I'm the co-founder and data guru here at OccupyFantasy.com, alongside Brian at BrianJesterFF on Twitter. He is the co-founder and CEO of Occupy Fantasy. How's it going, Brian?
Moose, what's up, man? I feel like I actually saw this meme earlier on Twitter. It's the Mel Gibson meme where he's the director and he's talking to Jesus Christ, and like Mel Gibson's just like a normal person, and Jesus Christ is all bloodied and battered, and it was like it had the Mel Gibson, and it was like a normal person enjoying their holiday weekend, and then I can't remember what the original meme was, but for me, I'm the bloody battered Jesus Christ of 5 days of NFL football straight grind. That's me. That's how I feel. So it feels nice for a change to actually wake up and not be grinding today. So
Yeah, and I'm on the downturn, or I guess the downswing of my COVID spell, so that was fun during the holidays. But still grinding, still back at it. COVID can't get rid of degeneracy. So we're here.
Absolutely not.
And Brian, we also forgot the most important part is the limited Occupy merch, the one of one, the Occupy coconut that I had to bring on stream and show you, which is pretty awesome.
This is so crazy. Definitely one of one. Elite legendary tier Occupy merch. Very rare, hard to find. That's pretty sick.
Yeah, we may have to put it on the merch store. Definitely. So, but yeah, so we're here not to talk about coconuts and other fruits and our holidays. We're here to talk about some NFL. We are here, and Sean says, nice score, Jeff. But actually meant Brian. So
Quite typo there, Sean. What's up, man? Thank you.
definitely. But yeah, we're here to talk about how you did last week in NFL. Some things we could learn, some things we could, what other pros have done, what other winners have done as well, and just talk through. If you guys have questions, gals have questions as well. We're here for about 30 minutes or so. This is more so of a very high level breakdown, strategy review type video. So let's switch over to your classic results. So good to see small field still in the green, plus 24% ROI. 150 max classic. I can't remember what it was last week, but I feel like it's improved this week.
Yeah, a couple percentage points, and we can get into that. I made not a drastic change, but a pretty sizable change to my 150 strategy this week, trying out different things. So we could talk about that for sure. But yeah, I think definitely a couple percent improvement there.
And then 150 max showdown still hovering around that nice percentage of minus 69%.
Yeah, I think I only played one showdown slate in the past week as far as 150 max goes. So not much change there. It was really the small field. Had the big day on Saturday. And then the exact opposite on Sunday on the short slate where nothing went right. So, yeah, I think that'll be the talking points here. It'll be what I did in the 150 max on the Sunday slate, how I changed up a little bit there. And then we could talk about the short slate on Sunday, maybe go through my DraftKings exposure and talk about just the different strategies I employed.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So, so really quick, I want to bring back up the small field. You're at that 24% ROI. Absolutely love it. I do gotta point out good things when good things happen. So keep doing what you're doing there. Like I said, we've talked about it all season. That's kind of the goal. The 20-30% is what you've been looking for. So keep that up, and that's all you can do. My one question about that is, do you know offhand how much that small field is between Classic and Showdown?
Yeah, it's most. I would say like. Hold on, let me see real quick. I was looking at something earlier.
Because you and I have been talking, and it seems like FanDuel Showdown has been some of your strongest wins lately.
Yeah, I think I think I've won the monster like 3 or 4 times. I won that gunslinger for 50K. So in just pure revenue, for lack of better terms, I have like 100K in NFL Showdown wins this year on FanDuel. And then in Classic, it's a bunch of 5 to 20K wins that have added up. So I do think it's actually more in Showdown that I've hit. So
Okay, nice. Perfect. So, yeah, so the one lineup that you sent me that we wanted to talk about here is this was the short slate where you got second for 10K and a bunch of flames, which is really cool. And I'll let you take the floor.
So this actually wasn't the short slate. This was the Christmas Eve, the classic main slate.
Oh, shit. Never mind. Yes, you're right. Yes.
So this was Saturday, and it was a 10-game slate. And I'd been focusing on FanDuel all week, and obviously with holiday obligations and content obligations, I didn't. I was actually focusing on Showdown that night for DraftKings, and I said, well, I still need to play because there were some satellites I was targeting on
Hmm.
DraftKings. I was like, I'll make one main lineup, throw it into a bunch of single entry, small field stuff, and maybe I'll sweep. And sweep is exactly what I did. So I got, I think it was close to, I want to say 30K in cash among all the different
Wow.
contests. Um, Picked up close to 20 or 30K in tickets. A big haul for the $2,000 millie this upcoming Sunday. A couple more tickets for it's basically a 5K millie in the showdown on Monday night
Hmm.
in a week. So we're talking like 40K in tickets over the next 6 days. So we go from ticket December moves to immediately starting off the new tax year with a shit ton of money in tickets. So I'm pumped for that, and it was a really good slate. But I think someone in Discord pointed this out that this lineup in particular, even though it was a 10-game slate, it was actually a 3-2 stack.
Yeah.
Cousins plus Jefferson plus Hawkinson ran it back with Hodgins and Richie James, and couple reasons for that was if for those of you who are watching who remembered earlier in the year we talked about I think it was Chipotle Moose who was it was these mega stacks in small field and I didn't want to go away from that. I've still been doing that.
Hmm.
But I thought this was the perfect game to do it in because it checked a lot of boxes. One, it was a high total game. We liked the game environment. Two, a lot of the other games on the slate were affected by the weather.
Hmm.
There weren't too many good spots with weather. And three, most of the guys here, I would say three of the four outside of Jefferson, were underpriced. Hodgins full-time receiver, Richie James full-time receiver, Hawkinson underperforming tight end, massive target, great matchup. All these guys were under 5K. Hodgins 4,100, James 3,900. So when you have the guys that are underpriced, it's almost like NBA moves in a sense where when the star's out and the team is underpriced, kind of that sense here. So that's why I opted for the 3-2 stack.
Yeah, we talked about it the last couple of weeks on the show where you playing. There's different types of chalk where they're just chalk for whatever reason, and then there's also chalk when they're completely undervalued for their price. So if you have someone like James who's 3,900 and he's almost 40% in this contest, that's chalk that you can play because you know he's super undervalued and can get there. When he gets to 17 points, he's going to get you a flame, and overall you can't. Those are the type of that's the type of chalk that you want to play. So overall, I really like it. Kirk Cousins with the 1.1 yard short of the 300-yard bonus. So that's always fun.
Yeah, so Cousins 1 yard short of the 300-yard bonus. London 4 yards short of the 300-yard bonus. It was, yeah, it still wouldn't have helped me in this particular contest because the person in first had just a crazy ass lineup. But I think I would have won a few more K, maybe another ticket or two if we'd have got those bonuses. But really happy about this. I played chalk mostly everywhere outside of Drake London. We knew he'd be 5% or less,
Hmm.
and knew 3-2 stacks would be under owned. So I was fine with the distribution here. And Hodgins was going to be probably the least popular of that group, with Slayton being the other Giants receiver. So I was happy with this build. I thought it was a perfect blend of chalk and risk.
Yeah, overall it was a perfect lineup, and I think the biggest thing you talked about was the weather. I do want to harp back on that really quick. Where even though it was a 10-game slate, the probability of a game stack going off on these games that were having like Arctic blizzard weather,
Yeah,
uh,
right.
which yeah, I mean it's so it almost cut it down to like a 6-game slate. Oh, so almost kind of like a short slate to some extent, like a medium slate, I guess you could
It
say.
was. Yeah. That's actually a really good point because they're like the Cleveland game. We weren't playing anybody there.
Yeah.
Buffalo and Chicago to an extent. We weren't playing many people. Some of these other games, not excited to play a ton of guys. So yeah, I think that's actually a really good point if you can condense it down. And I think the same could be said if there's like 35-point totals or 39-point totals or whatever, and a couple games stick out. So really a perfect storm here and capitalized on it. Really glad I decided Saturday morning to enter this lineup.
Yeah, definitely really good job there. So uh, I have up Fantasy Labs here in the other tab. You want to go ahead and take a look at that?
Yeah, so two more things we want to talk about. We
Hmm.
want to talk about my short slate exposures and my 150 max classic strategy. I changed a little bit this year, so not this year, this week. Do you have a preference, Moose, which we talk about first?
Let's talk about your 150 max.
Okay, so on FanDuel, as I said a couple weeks ago, I have found the leak where I was playing. I really wasn't setting ownership boundaries within within a lineup. So sometimes I would have lineups that are way too risky
Mm-hmm.
and was throwing away money that way. Too many bottom 10% finishes. Also, this week, and just looking and by looking at Fantasy Labs, you see some of the top, at least the top players this year, Chipotle, Squirrel Patrol, um, even Laz gets fit to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Giant Squid, like just all the names we normally see, right? But the guys that have been crushing the NFL this year, you normally see them play heavy of like 4 or 5 guys, and heavy meaning like 30 to 50%. Usually in my allocations, I'm a little more spread out, and I really don't get many players over 30% owned.
Mm-hmm.
This week, I said if I thought the chalk was good chalk, I'm gonna play the chalk heavily, and then whichever cheap receiver I like the most that projects the best, I'm gonna go heavy on them. So I actually had I think it was like 35% McCaffrey, 35% Derrick Henry, which I never would have been able to get to. 35% Justin Jefferson. I had 30% Hawkinson. So like I was going all in on the plays I thought that were really good. I also had 45% Nelson Aguilar. He was my cheap guy, and he put up a 0.
Mm.
And my results this week, in particular, I had. Let me pull up my ROI on my side. It was so 25.50 in entry fees. So it was minus 36%,
Okay.
despite half of my lineups putting up a 0 with Nelson Aguilar.
Which is
And
just
you
nuts
go
to think
back,
about.
yeah. So if you go back to the chart, I'm what minus 65% for the year, right?
Mm-hmm.
In classic. So so when I've raised the floor of all of my lineups by playing these guys a little heavier. And by doing that, I had to be a little lighter on some guys, naturally, guys that I would normally play more of. But I think most of this gives me a higher floor, and while keeping my same strategy within each lineup, it still gives me the ceiling chance. And God forbid if Nelson Aguilar would have done anything, then I would have been really excited to see how those lineups would have performed.
Yeah, you always go through that conundrum of, especially for me, like when I'm doing the 150 max on FanDuel, you'll see some players 5%, 10%, 7%. It's like, I kind of want to get exposure to these guys, but is these couple of percentage points even worth it? You basically need them to get right in that perfect lineup around them. And so I can see just scrapping those smaller percentages and not being in on guys that you would want to be in and put it heavier on some chalk and just gain your exposure that way. So I definitely like it. And let's hope it keeps working, and let's hope your highest exposed person does not get a 0 this week.
But that's the thing too. Like when you do that strategy, or at least when I did, and when you see these other guys do it, they actually end up with a lot of players in that 1 to 5% exposure range. And really, what I think the key is, you want your core to hit your. I mean, we talk about this in different sports, right? But if the Derrick Henry, Aguilar, McCaffrey, Hawkinson, Jefferson core goes off, that way you have another 50 guys to rotate through. Even if it's only a couple percent Jamar Chase, couple percent Tony Pollard, couple percent T. Higgins, right? Just rotating these guys through. And if the core hits, you're much more likely that one of those players that goes off, even though you only have a couple percent, ends up in a pretty decent lineup. So
Yeah.
actually, that's something I never do, but this week I allowed it. I actually played a couple more quarterbacks than normal this week too, and
Ooh.
I figured if my core can go off, so I'm gonna try it again this week. I actually built both ways last week, Moose. I built my normal way,
Mm-hmm.
and I built the other way, and I compared the lineups and the exposures, and I really hate it. I absolutely could not stand my original way, how the exposure shook out. I says, well, I'm gonna go with this new strategy. I like the exposures a little bit more, and despite having a negative week in Classic, I was really pleased with the results.
I guess we can actually just go back to that Mel Gibson lineup or the Mel Gibson meme, and your enlightened lineup is Mel Gibson, and your old fashioned building is Bloody Jesus.
Yeah, man, Bloody Jesus is a great name for a band.
Definitely. Yeah. So you changed up your 150 strategy, Mac, and increased your floor. You had a 0 in it, which still incredible
Crazy to me to think about.
Yeah. Yeah, so you did okay. But let's talk about the short slate stuff as well, because around this time there are a bunch of short slates. Brian, we talked about it before, where short slates don't happen so often that when they do come up, you're like, okay, wait, hold on, what do I do again? Let me go back to what I wrote down. So yeah, so tell me about your short slates from Sunday.
Basically got everything wrong. I think that's the high level. For those of you who watched the video that I did with Jack, we talked about super stacking the first game, talked about being underweight on Akers and Higbee. That worked out fantastically. Talked about, what else did we talk about that we got wrong? We got 2-2 Atwell right. That was one thing we got right. But really, I was just wrong about a lot of things. And that's gonna happen, right? There are gonna be
Mm-hmm.
games where that happens and slates where that happens. I think more importantly, we look at the exposures, and because I don't think on stream we've ever looked at my exposures for a short slate, so that I think that would be interesting on DraftKings. I maxed the Millie Maker over there, so we can kind of take a look at that.
Okay, cool. So let me go ahead and pull up Fantasy Labs here. Boom. And it is on a 3-game slate, and we'll take a look at the Merry Millionaire. I think that's what it's called.
Shout out to our UFC writer Jake, by the way, who what did he finish like 20th
I think
or
he got
20 something in the Millie, right?
17th or something like that.
Yeah, he was top 25 in the Millie. Had a staff sweat going watching it. He had 4 guys left in that late game. God, that terrible game.
That was a bad game. Yeah.
Oh, I also faded Baker. I was like, there's no way he's optimal, and he was the highest scoring quarterback. So
Yeah. And it was always funny. Like I'm looking at my lineup, my top lineup from there, which I only did one, so it was the top. Where I was drawing dead, and so I had to swap to. It's always funny when you do these late swaps on the final game to try and win. And I had like a McSorley, Keontae Ingram, McBride, and they scored like 5 points in total.
yeah, I mean, you're gonna lose anyways, right? So
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, I actually
anyway,
ended up swapping a bunch of Brady lineups for McSorley lineups just because I knew those Brady lineups that they didn't have. I think I said it in Discord. They didn't have Akers and Higbee and Waddle and Rams. Like 2 or 3 of those 4, you're drawing dead. So you might as well just hope for the 5% quarterback stack to go off.
exactly. Yep.
And he
So
didn't.
no. So let me go ahead and pull up your username here. Hopefully this doesn't break.
Very possible.
Okay, sweet. So you had 99 uniques out of 150. Shame on you.
That's pretty low. But here's the thing too, right? Like late swap and stuff too. It's hard to tell
Yeah.
on these shorter slates how many uniques you truly had and what you were aiming for. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I think for a 3-game slate, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
In the Millie, by the way, I think I'm
Yeah.
okay with it.
Exactly. Makes sense. Yeah. So your highest leverage players, all from Miami.
Can you figure out which game I stacked? Looking at the leverage.
Yeah. Jeff Wilson, Mike Gesicki, Trent Sherfield, Miami defense, all over 10% leverage, and I don't think they scored 10 points in total.
Gesicki got 10. The other 3 did not combine for 10.
Yeah, so you had that, and if you flip it on the other side, which I thought was strange, even though you stacked the game, you were less heavy, you were less on Tyreek and Raheem Mostert.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I figured we got the pregame news that Jeff Wilson would be active, and I knew the field wasn't going to change, and the ownership would be a crazy difference, and they're probably going to split, maybe a little less for Jeff Wilson, but we basically got Mostert was 10 times owned.
Yeah.
And so I said, I'm just going to split my exposure between them. I'll be under on Mostert and way overweight on Jeff Wilson and be okay with that. Wilson outscored him. So, I mean, I played 51% Tyreek, so it's not like I'm that crazy underweight on him. But Dobbs especially was higher owned than we expected. Watson was probably just as popular as we expected. I was heavy on Lazard and Tunyon. It didn't matter because none of them really did it. I guess Lazard was in the winning lineup, technically, and Watson did well enough, but yeah, I was super heavy on that game, underweight on Higbee and Akers, so that sucked. But honestly, looking at it, I wasn't even that underweight on those guys.
Yeah, I mean, you basically matched the field. 3% difference isn't that bad on Cam Akers.
No, I think it just felt like I was way under.
Yeah.
And then Higbee was lower owned than expected, right?
Excuse me. Yeah, he was. Yeah, you were actually overweight on Higbee.
That's crazy. So sometimes, right, we get ownership wrong. That's going to happen sometimes. And going into it, when I was looking at my exposures, I was like, I'm definitely going to be under on Higbee. And sometimes you're overweight, and you'll take those. You don't like seeing those misses from a predictive standpoint, but you'll take it when it happens. So, yeah, no, this was a pretty typical slate for me. I entered a ton of rules. I want to say I had 18 or 20 rules in the builder, but my exposures were pretty straight up. Like as you see here, nothing crazy or outrageous.
Yeah, the only thing I'm thinking of is like if you were overweight on Higbee and not that basically the same thing on the field as the other Rams, Akers and the Rams defense. Did you not just were those one-offs or were they part of a stack that that didn't hit. I'm just
Every
trying.
I had a ton, I mega stacked every game.
Yeah.
Every
Okay.
lineup had
Okay.
a mega stack. It was 4-2. I think maybe I allowed some 3-1s on the Denver side,
Okay.
but every lineup was super stacked, and every
Yeah.
game busted from that regard, so it
Yeah.
wasn't gonna happen.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay. No worries. I mean, you get, like you said, we get things wrong. That's what you want to do on the short slates, though, with those mega stacks. So, obviously, can't knock it. I do want to take a look at the leader here. If we want to talk about the leader here, is this is let's see, looks like Pete and K-Land sharing the millie.
I think
But
that's is that right? I'll look at my end. I don't know if Fantasy Labs updated. Let me see. I'm gonna check.
okay,
What was it? It was called the Mary what?
the Merry Millionaire.
Yeah, Mary Millionaire. The winners. I think the winner had a different name, and it wasn't split. It was Chad 10S player.
Yes, I thought. Yeah, I don't. All right.
Yeah, the winning score was 213. So clearly this wasn't updated.
Yeah. Okay. Gee, thank you.
But
Fantasy
if you
Labs.
can pull it, I don't know. If you can pull up his lineup or their lineup,
What is it called?
Chad 10S
Player.
Yeah. How many entries did they have?
It looks like they only had two, but
Well, genius.
I don't know how true that is. Um,
Okay.
is this which one is it? Is it the one where they played Aaron Rodgers and Lazard?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Cool.
let me see. So so when lineups like this win, I and whoever listens to our advice isn't going to be successful because, so, God, Fancy Labs. So basically, it was this lineup plus James Conner and Fournette
Okay.
at running back. Yep. Okay. So, um, yeah. So it was this lineup. So basically, you had a 2-1 stack for Green Bay, Miami, which I'm never going to play in on a short slate.
Mm-hmm.
But the interesting thing to me was the ownership, where they didn't have any under 10% owned players, which is pretty rare for a short slate GPP winner of this size to hit. Remember KJ Osborne last week
Yeah.
when that hit? But even though they don't have any lower owned players, they faded all the most popular players in this particular lineup. No Tyreek, no Christian Watson, no Aaron Jones, no. There was one more player that was super popular. Let me see. Hold on. Who was it?
Well, they have Waddle, but
Oh, Godwin, and no Godwin.
yeah.
So the four of the top 5 players were not in their lineup. So when you do that, and obviously there's a little difficult to make rules for if you're in a builder, but if you're hand building, if you fade 4 of the top 5 own guys, you can play the rest of your lineup pretty much how you want it,
Yeah.
and not be too concerned about duplication. I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Especially when the way again it also talks about how you're building your lineup, where not many people on a short slate are playing 2x1.
Dude,
Stack.
a lot of people are.
Oh really? Never mind.
That's why we like that's why we like the mega stack so much. So many people are playing lineups like this.
Mhm.
That is good. So, but I don't think people play this particular lineup like this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's like this. Yeah, so that and when you get 7 touchdowns between the two guys on the game, so
Certainly helps.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, he also had running backs, but Fantasy Labs isn't showing running backs for his lineup for some reason. Not really sure why, but we'll go there.
It didn't load the late game ownership, whatever. It's me. Hey, Connor at 26%, Leonard Fournette at 30%.
Okay, cool. I actually did want to take a look at the game stacks here, and if we could somehow, I don't know if we'll be able to find it, but I was trying to see like what some of we talked about some game stacks, like the mega stacks. I was trying to find like the top 4 man stack was from the Green Bay Miami game, and only 0.2% of the field had them. So that shows how much people aren't playing the mega stacks and how much leverage you can get by playing them when they go off.
Yeah, how much? Is there a 6-man stack anywhere in this reporting? Because basically all my Miami lineups were 6 guys or more from that game.
Let's see here.
I included some 5-man stacks, like some 5-1s, 5-2s. I think I even had a 6-1 or 6-2 at some point.
Let's see.
I'll show you an example of why this works. If we got 5 minutes left, I'll show you this complete domination after this.
Well, when the Rams score 51, and again, 7 touchdowns don't go to 3 players.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, according to here, there's a bunch of 6-man lineups that it was just all 0% owned.
Yeah, I feel like it's hard to trust this reporting to this point, right?
Yeah.
All right, so if you can go back to this December 17th slate, to Saturday, and look at the Wildcat.
Is that the main slate or?
It was the Saturday slate,
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, I
the
see
three
here.
gamer.
Okay. And he chose the Wildcat.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Let me
think
look
we
at.
mentioned this. Did we mention this on stream? We didn't talk about it explicitly, right?
Yeah, we mentioned it but never actually talked about it. This
Yeah, I
is
want to show this
yeah
domination.
yeah. This is insane.
So where do you finish? Or what was his results?
So
I'm
yeah.
like 10 seconds behind.
So we got so BGRE Seth got first, second, third, fifth, eighth, ninth, and 11th. The Wildcat.
Pretty fucking sick. So again, if you remember, he was on the Emotional Macro podcast. We talked about this, I think.
Mm-hmm.
This insane performance, run simulations. But look, so this was a three gamer. Look at this stack: one, two, three, four, five, six, six
6-0.
Vikings. He ran it back with Pittman, so 6-1.
Oh yeah, 6-1. Okay, yeah.
And you may think, how is that even ever gonna win? Well, when one game goes off and the other two don't, you end up with lineups like this.
Mm-hmm.
So go to like click through his lineups, like cycle through them. It was like he played a shit ton of like these crazy mega stacks.
Yeah, I mean it's just the same lineup, the same stack, but just like switch the core out.
Yeah, yeah, it's so crazy. That's how you finish with 7 of the top 11 spots.
Yo, look at this lineup that finished in 11th. It's just what is that? 7-1, 7-0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-0.
Holy shit. That's crazy. But again, this isn't outrageous for DraftKings. Like
Yeah.
we've seen lineups like this win. There was the wild card slate, I want to say a year or two ago, where we saw a 6-1 win. So it happens more frequently than you would think, especially on 2-game and 3-game slates.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that lineup's nuts. The 7-0. But yeah, so consider this, and this is just an example. It's not the reason I do it. Like this wasn't the inspiration, but like we've been talking about this for a couple of years now. But B. Gresseth runs simulations, and his simulations tell him to make stacks like this on these slates like this. So yeah, we should be considering it as well. And again, maybe not as crazy as 6-1s or 6-2s or 7-0s.
Maybe. Why not?
Dude, so the Vikings are interesting because they have the stud running back, they have 3 capable wide receivers, tight end, so it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Miami, I don't know. I guess maybe if you did Tua, one of the running backs, the 3 receivers, Gesicki, I guess you could get there.
It's not. Yeah, there's not many teams that can get there from this many players.
You really need teams that run a shit ton of 11 personnel. 3 receivers on the field a lot. The tight end runs a ton of routes. Running back catches passes, and they're pass heavy, which in this day and age is like 4 teams. So there's not a ton of teams that it fits, but Minnesota does fit.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost similar to show. It kind of reminds me of like some showdown lineups when we're trying to go heavy and we go 5-1 or 4-1 on over on FanDuel, where we're rooting for that team to just absolutely blow up and hope that it works.
Exactly, right? I mean, you could probably do it, Buffalo, Kansas City, maybe Philly,
Cincinnati
for sure. So yeah, so I think we have a 2-gamer, not this week is just normal games. Week 18, we have a 2-gamer on Saturday, and then we have the playoff slates. So just keep this in mind as we continue to build these smaller slates.
Yeah, should be fun. And again, just try and maximize your edges. And if you think a team's going to just absolutely blow up, just hammer the shit out of them.
Yeah, it's okay to only like one team on a 3-game slate. If you like them, fucking like them and go for it.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, so that'll pretty much do it for tonight's show. Brian, is there any last lingering comments, concerns, or anything you wanted to talk about?
No, I think we hit it all. So we'll be back on Thursday's showdown video. Just make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. We're doing the showdown videos, short slate videos with Jack through the end of the playoffs. And I think that's it. I guess PGA starts in a couple weeks, Moose. Actually, in what, 8 days?
Yeah.
I'm planning on doing some PGA videos this upcoming season. So if you like PGA videos, make sure you tune in.
Okay, nice. Absolutely, that should be a lot of fun. So again, we'll be here a week from today, just to break down the Week 17 lineups. We'll have a whole bunch of other content throughout the week on NBA, all the other stuff. as well. Go ahead and check that out, occupyfantasy.com. Until next time, Moose and Brian, have a good night.